Welcome to another episode of Dad Up, everyone. Thank you guys very much for joining me. Finally, I've got these two guests on. We've had some scheduling issues over the last few weeks, but finally we've got it narrowed down to today, and I'm excited to talk to them about their journey and the things that they've got going on. But my good friends Nathan and Delitha Myers have joined me on Dad Up. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. We're super excited to be here with you guys.
Yeah, finally, as we were talking about before, it's just there's been one hiccup after another, mainly on my end, but one hiccup after another. But we're here now. We're taking advantage of it. God has opened this space for us, so we're going to go ahead and dive right in and get going. Nathan, Delitha, for my listeners, viewers who don't know who you are, let's talk about your journey, kind of your backstory, and then we'll talk about obviously what you're doing now and your family as well.
Yeah, my name is Nathan, and I'm Nathan D. Myers out there in the universe. Or if you look me up on something like IMDb or you Google me, they put the Nathan and the D in there, and you'll find me. And I'm a fourth generation preacher's kid. My dad was a church planter. My granddad was a pulpit minister. My great grandfather was involved in ministry. I'm one of three, or well, I'm sorry, one of four. I'm two of four
Yeah, which brother were
biolog
you kicking out?
yeah, which brother are we of biological brothers, all boys, and have been involved a little bit in ministry right out of high school. I went into a youth missions program, studied Bible, studied Russian language, did mission work for a couple of years, thought I was going to work for the church for a while. Tried that, felt like the cog of my wheel at that time was not really fitting in my church heritage very well as an artist. And I'd always been an artist and a singer and doing theater and was not incredibly interested in team sports and stuff like that, but was just really that, that kid interested in art and music and theater in high school. Made a little soiree over into ministry for a minute, thinking that might be the answer for me, following in dad's footsteps, and was feeling a bit of a misfit there. Some of that has to do with my actual church heritage and some of the strictures and limitations of the fundamentalism I grew up in, and me not feeling like I could really fit into that into that space with them, and that's a conversation for another day. But the Lord led me kind of out of that space with them, and just I went back into the arts. My brothers and I produced a couple of records together, toured music for a while. I started doing musical theater again. I met my wife, directing music for a children's theater in Fort Worth, Texas, and a few years later stumbled kind of progressively from live theater and music into the film space. Started working as an actor in film in 2004 and 5, and then started PAing, which is production assistant work, and started art directing and getting involved in the design space on the art side of film. Later produced some features with friends and some shorts and commercials. I've now directed a feature, which we're here to talk about today. And so, yeah, I'm just show people. I have a heart for the Lord. I want to do good, make good, and make cool art. That's really one of my driver. But I am also a dad. I'm a homeschool dad. And I've got two beautiful kids, a 12-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old son who's very late to our party.
And I'm Delitha Myers. I have a bachelor's degree in musical theater, a master's degree in drama, studied abroad in Ireland. And early on in my career, I tried New York, but I didn't like living there. And as soon as I made the decision to move back to Texas, I met this guy directing music at a children's theater. And then I also got hired at a different theater and got my equity card, which is a stage union. And so I was fully employed for over 10 years, just working full time as a stage actor. And then when I had my daughter Aurora, everything shifted and it wasn't fun anymore. I just felt a lot of mom guilt being away from her. And so when she was about 5 months old, I did my last show, live show, and just kind of rededicated my life to, raising this beautiful child that God had given me. And about that time, we joined forces and we started making movies together, Nathan and I. And throughout that journey, things happened and now we have a 3-year-old too.
Things
But I've
happen.
I've homeschooled my daughter since she was 4. I love being fully immersed in her life. She's about to start 7th grade
Oh, wow.
and she's amazing. And then we have this son who's totally different. And I never thought I'd be a boy mom. I'm not sure I really am, but I have one. I have a boy. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. I never thought I'd be a boy dad because I was an artist, but we've got this kid who's into motorcycles and soccer and football and
Loves to drive, loves
loves to
cars.
drive. He's a
He's,
adrenaline junkie and
yeah.
doing backflips on the trampoline at 3 and all kinds of stuff. So we're in for a very interesting next few years.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you're going to be learning some new skills there, Nathan.
Yeah, probably so. Well, I'm open to that. I learned how to ride horses a few years ago, uh, and which turned into like actors are always adding special skills to their abilities and things like that. And so I've just been looking at it like, oh, okay, well, we're gonna get dirt bikes, and we're gonna maybe do some dune buggying and take a kung fu class, and I bet or do some grappling. We're good. It's gonna be good.
That's awesome. So, Delight, are you staying home again with the 3-year-old, or are you?
Yeah, I mean, so I homeschool my daughter. She this year we're doing a new little co-op thing, so she's only gonna be away from me on Mondays for half a day, and then the rest of the time, I'm teaching her math and English and grammar and all of that. But yeah, and the boy will be with us, much to my daughter's chagrin. She really wishes he wasn't around a lot of the time, especially when she's
Right,
doing school.
right, right. Okay, well, that's cool. Did did you guys come to this decision mutually? I mean, or was this because you said mom guilt? So
I did.
yeah.
Yeah, so I did. I had a lot of mom guilt and I just didn't like being away from her. And I somehow produce really clingy kids. They like me. And so anytime I had to be away from her, it was hard for the people who were watching her because she really just wanted me. And so then when she was a baby still, I ran into a friend, Sarah Slaughter Hughes. So this is an interesting story. Sarah and I were resident actors fresh out of college at this regional theater. And back then she was a non-believer, very wild and free and just kind of a typical actor if you think about him. And but I loved her. She was super cool and I thought she would be such an amazing person if she could kind of love the Lord too,
Mhm.
and used some of that fun creative energy for God. And so I just started praying for her back then. And fast forward 15 years later or so, I'm at a new church because we were
Just visiting.
visiting, and I look next to me. We're singing worship songs. I look next to me, and Sarah is right next to me. And we went, "What?" And over time, she had met her husband who brought her to know the Lord, and she was a new believer. And at that time, I had just written our movie, Aria Appleton Shines, and I had her in mind when I was writing this part. And there she was. And I said, "Do you want to
Audition.
audition for this movie that I wrote? Because I wrote it thinking of you." And she said, "Sure." And then she got in, she was in the movie. And she had this lovely daughter who was 4 or 5 at the time. And this girl was so smart, so easy to talk to. She'd look at you in the eyes and have adult conversations with you, just so bright. And I said, "What have you been doing with her?" And Sarah told me she'd been doing homeschool and this was the curriculum she used and this is how she did it. And I said, "Okay, well, when Aurora, my daughter, is 4 years old, I'm going to do exactly what you did because what I see here is exactly what I'd love her to be when she's 4 or 5." And so I told him, and he was like, "Great, let's do it." So it was mutual, but it was very much a a journey and just God putting Sarah in my life again.
Mm.
Yeah, and it was also kind of leading us from having two parallel creative lives where I was working in those years a little more in the film space than theater, but she was still working even then had just started to exit the theater space to go be a full-time mom. And but I think part of what was happening in that season too was God was kind of bringing us together to actually create together, because we were really the only thing we had really created together was children
Yeah.
and
Some music.
a little
Maybe
music and things
for
like that.
films.
We had a little bit of that, but we both had our own career paths kind of happening. And in that time, we kind of came together creatively in a different way to produce movies together. And a little to Delitha's chagrin, because she had mostly been producing live theater and things like that in those days. The film space was not. I think she was a little reticent to come into that space.
I just don't like the time commitment. Film, a lot of times in film, you film 12 to 16 hours a day. And I really like to have like a 4 to 5 hour work day. So it's a
Uh,
lot for me.
yeah, but it's true. It is a lot of work, but I was feeling really compelled to either get out of the industry completely, and I was at a crossroads where the Lord had kind of grabbed me by the scruff of the neck and gotten my attention. And some of
Mm.
you guys that are listening, you'll know if that's happened to you before, where you just know that you know that you know that he's kind of like a good dad has kind of cornered you, and you feel a little cornered, and you're like, what are we doing? Why do I feel so cornered? Why get off my back for a minute? And as I leaned into that instead of going away from it, I had a really cool season of disclosure with God that was very new to me, very unusual and different, and maybe a leveling up of a sort, if that's a thing. And I got very clearly directed in prayer to make a movie, and but to keep him in mind in the process, because a
Mm.
lot of my years prior to that, even though I had worked on several fairly well-known kind of faith or Christian things, my own motivations were not real clear. I was just kind of at that point kind of meandering. Even though I started in ministry, I was kind of at that point meandering, but he kind of set my compass again, reset the compass, and
Mm.
tuned me up a little bit. And in that season, and I think probably because my mission became a little bit clearer to me, it was something she could embrace. It was something she could look at that point and go, yes, that she could get on board with. That, despite maybe a 12-hour day sometimes, she could get on board with.
Okay. Um, well, let's talk about this. What's current projects you guys are working on right now? Because I know you wanted to address it. Let's talk about what you guys are doing now.
Yeah, well, the current project is called Aria Appleton Shines. It's a feature-length musical movie. It's a comedy. It's a satire. It looks a little bit like Diary of a Wimpy Kid meets High School Musical meets, I don't know, a little Malcolm in the Middle, or it's just kind of from the birthed out of the campy public school movie genre, and junior high humor and satire, and but it does have a Christ-centered message, and it's not super on the nose, but it's very accessible to kids that are 8 years old to 12 years old, and we've screened it for college students and adult audiences and it's got a very broad appeal. College students think it's hysterical the
Hmm.
way they might look at Diary of a Wimpy Kid and find it humorous or funny, even though it's about junior high kids. And ours is about elementary school kids engaging with junior high and high school kids. And so it's kind of there's a broad age demographic across the film.
Hmm.
And
It's available on Prime Video. So if you go to Prime Video and you just search Aria Appleton Shines, Aria, like the song, and then apple like you eat, Ton, Aria Appleton Shines. And then we made a parent and youth leaders guide that accompanies it for parents who want to have deeper conversations about some of the themes. Some of the themes in the movie are honoring parents. It's a great one. Dying to self, and then there's technology that's involved in cyberbullying. And so we have a guide that walks you through six of the major themes in the movie. It it dives into scriptures that kind of correlate with these themes, and there's some questions that you can ask the family just to have a discussion about some positive themes and positive conversations.
Yeah, and that leader's guide is available at givesendgo.com/Aria Appleton. You can give any amount there, even a penny, and we'll send you that leader's guide. Or you can email us through our socials. We're at Aria Appleton and Aria Appleton Film on in most socials,
Mhm.
Instagram, Facebook, and
But
you
if
can
all
email
you,
us and we'll
yeah,
send it to
if
you.
all you can remember is ariaappleton.com, then that will get you anywhere you want to go.
And that's the primary project we're that's in, it's done, it's completed, it's been in the festival circuit for a little while. Last year it won the ICVM Gold Crown Award
Oh,
for Best
nice.
Feature Comedy, which we were really thrilled and dumbfounded, honestly, when we won that award. And we were nominated for Best Picture at ICVM with Sound of Freedom and Jesus Revolution, which blew our minds. And Because we're a kids movie, and it's compared to the density and the depth of some of those dramas, ours is just funny and but it is a high quality product. It looks really good, looks really slick, and so that's our kind of primary project. And then we're in pre-production, meaning we've written a kid series. Delitha wrote a kid series. I say we. I'm about to look at it and tweak it
Yeah.
for her because that's usually our writing process. She'll write something and then she'll throw it at me. She'll be like, fix it. I'm done with it. And so I'm about to do that for the kid series. But there's 6 episodes of what we call high concept, intelligent kids television. And so it's more in the vein of Gordon McGibbon's on Life on Normal Street, which is on Amazon, or Mysterious Benedict Society, or Just Add Magic, or some of those shows that kids are really into that they're smart and they don't cut corners on dialogue and substance, and but none of those shows are Christ centered. None of those shows really might address biblical archetypal stories or themes or things like that. But the series we're working on does, and it has that kind of moral fiber, moral substance in it that we think some of those shows would are missing. And so that's our pre production project that we're hoping to get funded here shortly and
What was the
move in
inspiration
on that.
behind it?
So for me, the inspiration was that I have this amazing daughter and we love to watch shows together, but there's not very many shows we can watch together. And so one of the shows, I mean, she's watched Gordon McGibbon's Life on Normal Street about 50 times, and I've watched it about 50 times with her. And that's one of the very few shows that is right for her age group. It makes her think, it's positive. And so I just thought, we need more episodic shows for this middle school, upper elementary age group that is fun, that makes them think, that they want to watch, and that has Christ at the center of it. So I just started thinking and I thought, well, what if any of these shows kind of had biblical truths?
Mm.
What if you take a theme from the Old Testament, like temptation, right? What if you take that theme and you insert it into an episode of a kid show? What would that look like? And can we, I love Narnia because it's not, we're not going, all right, Jesus fish, Jesus fish, Jesus fish, right? It's deep.
Mhm.
Aslan is there and he represents something more than himself, right? It's um what's
Yeah, is an
it's an
allegory.
allegory. Thank you. It's allegorical. And so I was thinking, what if we can make it kind of allegorical and use some of these true the truths that are throughout the Bible, that these themes, and then insert it into a really cool kids show.
Yeah, and kids are not interested. Ours aren't. Like, they're not even interested in The Chosen right now. Like our 12-year-old, she's like,
Mhm.
it's slow. I just don't want to watch it right now. I'm like, great,
Mhm.
we'll watch it later.
Yeah.
Um, and they're not interested in Middle Eastern character sets. let's just be honest. That is so far removed from any of their life or their experience. They don't know. I mean, people wandering around in biblical era garb, all of that kind of stuff is just like old hat to them to some degree, to
Mhm.
kids that grew up in church, and to kids that didn't grow up into church. They're like, what's that? Third world foreign country? I don't care. That is a very real feeling amongst kids and junior high kids when they look at stuff like that. And most of the content made by the faith-based market that might be suitable for kids often has that color backdrop of ethnicity and period and all that kind of stuff, and rehashing of Bible stories. And when they rehash Bible stories, they rarely rehash New Testament Bible stories. They're generally rehashing Old Testament Bible
Mhm.
stories, because of where they get a lot of their funding. And so, and so we're looking at that going, well, how do you actually connect to kids? Well, you find the genre that they like, and they're interested in, you write within that genre, and you write within, fantasy, modern day. You connect with them where they are, and where a lot of our big movie companies who write for kids, where they connect with them, same space. We're just not seeing a lot of that in faith-based. We're hoping to help fill that void.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. I love that. I had a question, I guess, kind of along those lines, but I know that we talk about, there's a lot of misunderstandings that kids have with when it comes to media and shows that they particularly watch, but parents do as well. And one of the things that I wanted to ask you guys is, why do you think most parents misunderstand? What do you think most parents misunderstand about the influence media has on their kids? And then how can they begin to reclaim that influence?
Mhm.
I think most parents don't understand the power. Uh, I was just listening to somebody talk about a kid who had gotten really interested in video games a few years ago, and they noticed a change in his behavior. And they weren't really. He wasn't over consuming necessarily in his video game playing and things like that, but they noticed a sudden and distinct change in his behavior and his attitude and his mood. And when they decided to make the hard call and just remove that completely from their house for a while, just to kind of see, to gauge the addiction and to gauge the influence. And when they did that, uh, he really lost his mind for a moment, just like a true addict.
Mhm.
And they had to go through some counseling and serious praying over that kid to before whatever had been happening to him in terms of influence or not just from the game itself, but whatever else was going on neurologically or spiritually. It was a pretty potent event for them. And I think the same, and that's video games, but I think the same thing is happening for kids, just with the media that they're watching. And parents need to give all of those shows and all of that influence that they get a whole lot more credit than they do, because it doesn't take much. I've watched our kids watch one episode of a show that has like even just a turn of phrase. It'll have a word usage or a turn of phrase in it, and they'll hear it, and then suddenly they're using it. And I go, where did they learn that? Like, where did they hear that? And why are they
Mhm.
saying that? And then you track it back to the 48 hours prior, and it was something they watched in some show. And then we're going, oh, okay. So it's there. Those kids are paying attention. Their brains are like sponges. They're soaking it all up. And that's just me. I feel like parents have got to give that some more credit, and be more diligent about gauging how much time their kids may spend in front of that, and whatever it is. As a man thinks in his heart, so he is. I believe that what we think about is generally what we become and what we
Mhm.
create in our lives. It's how we program ourselves to some degree subconsciously, is by watching and rewatching. And when David learned the law, David was required as king to handwrite the law. The Lord's like, write it down, right? He's putting it in his mind and writing it on his heart. And kids to some degree do the same thing when they're watching TV. It's like it's going in, they're processing it, they're getting it, putting it right on the hard drive. And so I think that's at least where I see it. I think it's much more potent and much more powerful than people give it credit for.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I remember when our daughter was 4, and she started saying out of the blue, "Oh my gosh," but not "Oh my gosh." She started saying a different one. And when we don't say that. And I thought, where did she hear that? And then, a few hours later, she's watching something, and that's where she got it from. And so I know that that's true, you
Yeah,
know.
she's just parroting
hmm
what she's
Yeah, because
listening to.
she's still learning the language. And if so, she's
Mhm.
like, oh, this is some of the language. Great, I will use it. Yeah, and Hollywood or whoever the powers that be are that make most of the things that our kids watch, even YouTube or commercials. That's the thing too. Like if you're on YouTube, you think, okay, this is going to be safe, but then an ad pops up, and the
Mhm.
ads you cannot filter, right? It's whatever it is. And so I recall one time that the very questionable ad popped up on something that we were watching on YouTube, and I think my daughter was 6 at the time, and I was like, "Oh, let's go outside," quickly distracting. They don't care. The powers that be do not care. They do not have your same ideological things that my vocabulary is not working this morning for me. I don't know what is going on. I think I had too many children. I'm sorry. But anyway, they don't have the same ideals that you might have. And so, but they do actually want to, they'd love to control your children and tell them what to think.
More
So,
so about they're more interested. Hollywood particularly is less interested, though I know that there are government groups involved in Hollywood that do have an interest in influencing what you're thinking about. We know that is true. However, there's a larger lobby of people involved in Hollywood. They just want to program your kids to buy their stuff.
mhm.
Right.
They don't really care about too much. Like they're too removed, disconnected.
Mhm.
They're from the morality side of that to think about how what is the language or the content appropriate for that demographic. They're a little out of touch in that
Mhm.
regard with middle America. And so from that standpoint, I think they're more interested in selling to your kids. In fact, a couple of our billionaires have recently invested in kids cartoons. Why are they doing that? Well, because those cartoons will actually lead them to buy the products that those guys make, and they'll have customers for 40 years. But when it comes to, and is it wrong for them to try to get, program your kids to buy stuff? It's kind of neither here nor there. It's not really what we're talking about as much as is it potent? Is it powerful? Does it work? Yes, it does. And can it lead you to buy something? Yes. Could it lead you to have a political positionality? Sure, it could. But is it affecting you spiritually and morally? Yes, it is. And so it's just that they're not as concerned about that. And so it's a mishmash of a mess, really.
Mhm.
And so you really need to look at who's producing it, why, who's behind it, what's the motive. And if you watch stuff and you just think, oh well, it's innocuous because it's just a kids show, or it's just you are missing
Mhm.
something. You need to wake up, because there's not anything in kids TV that isn't designed by the powers that be to. It's all intended to influence them at least towards buying something.
Yeah.
Uh, and so we just need to be more awake about it.
Yeah. I think the same is true for music as well. Music has that direct influence as well, and the stuff that our kids listen to. And on top of that, I mean, we're talking about, media and shows, but and then I mentioned music, but on top of that, we also have the direct influence our own parents have on us as kids, right? So you guys as parents have a direct influence on your own kids. Some of the things that I hear kids say, or some of the things that I see kids do, I I go, what are they thinking saying that, or what are they thinking doing that? And the first thing I go to is that's learned behavior. They learned it from somewhere, whether it's television, music, or their own family doing it. That's learned behavior, and sometimes it's okay, and most times it's not. And so that's something that parents need to be aware of. I think is absolutely right, especially with the stuff that our kids are watching. And nowadays, I think it's terrible that parents allow kids to have these tablets and these devices in their bedrooms, at night before they're going to bed, and there's no communication, there's no care about what they may be looking at. Oh, I'm doing homework, but I have to use the iPad to do the homework. Or I have to use the laptop to do the homework. Well, you don't have to in your bedroom. You can sit out the dining room table and do that. And so those influences are out there, and especially when it comes to, I think about social media in particular. You're mentioning YouTube and all that, but I mean, you got the TikToks and you got the Snapchats and all these different
Mhm.
things that are just, listen, there are good things out there for social media. There's good things to utilize social media for, and there are benefits to our kids having use of social media, but there's a lot of negatives to it. And I think the boundaries that we have to place on our kids as parents is important. And like you had mentioned earlier with the one family, taking the video game completely out of the kid's life, and how he basically had to go to rehab because he was having so many withdrawals, is a direct reflection of the power of a tool, a device like that. I mean, think about let's take it a step further. Put a gun in your kid's hand. How dangerous is that? No parent in their right mind, any sane parent, would put a gun in their kid's hand without proper training or proper education. But things like that is powerful. But you know what? So is social media. So is that laptop. So is that YouTube. So is that video game. Those are just as powerful, and you have no idea what can happen, good or bad. You have no idea what can happen unless you, as parents, are directly connected with your kids in a way that you have that bond and that relationship built and that trust built, that you can have those conversations. So I think it's completely right.
Yeah, and I feel like one of the hangups there for a lot of families, and it is for us, and I'm not going to call out your audience because because I want to point fingers at them. I'm pointing fingers at us. We had to look at our own usage and
Hmm.
make some admissions about it and say, oh, well, one of the reasons we might not be so aware or willing to monitor, gauge what our kids are doing is because that means I have to admit I have a doom scrolling problem, or I'm addicted, or I am spending too much time over here in this space or on social media or on a device, justifying it by saying, "Well, I need it for work." It's a lot of dads need to just put that thing down and no different than no different than any other addictive substance, and find their own way out so that they can help their kids out.
Yeah, and I wanna stop you right there, because that's one of my questions, sort of one of my questions when it comes to you guys as parents. How did your personal parenting journey become like that call to action?
So, in our movie Aria Appleton Shines, we wrote into it technology use, and the main girl, she has her own website that, video blogs, vlogs, I guess we say. And she's constantly, creating videos, and she's trying to grow her fan base and all of this. And so we wrote it into the movie. And then we realized, oh, this is a real issue,
Hmm.
right? This is
Well, it's
actually
interesting.
big.
This was written 10 years ago,
Hmm.
and so it was a little ahead of its time. And I'm not sure Delitha understood exactly what she was
Just
writing.
getting the
Uh,
download and
Getting a
writing.
download. It was just
Hmm.
written. It's organic. It wasn't that we wrote it because we were on a mission.
Hmm.
We wrote it for the fun of writing it, and then when we retro engineered it and looked at it, yeah, we were like, oh,
Oh, yeah.
this is and then it's interesting because we had several years of festival and post production that the pandemic interrupted, and we're just now at a point where we were able to get it distributed this year, and And it's funny because people like you are asking us, "Oh, you guys are on a mission to talk to kids and families about this stuff." So we're like, "Well, we
Now
are
we are.
now.
Yeah.
We didn't realize we were." It created a call to action that I think maybe we feel a little set up by the Lord, so to speak. Where we're like, "Oh, oh, okay, we get it. We
Yeah.
we see it, but we're experiencing it at home. It
Mhm.
it is something we've been through ourselves." I think maybe families are just now looking at the train wreck of the
Yeah.
whole
The
circumstance of the
consequences.
last decade going, oh no, what have we done? And
Mhm.
I think that a lot of people are waking up to that. The timing of our release, I think God timed that
Mhm.
for us to some degree, um, and then turned us loose. Uh, because people are asking us, "Hey, will you come over here and talk to our families about this subject?" And we're
Mhm.
going, I guess so.
Yeah.
I guess that's
Mhm.
yes, we will. So we're feeling a little bit like we're coming to terms with it ourselves.
Mhm. In our own house, funny enough, my 12-year-old, we don't have an issue with her. It's the 3-year-old we have the issue with
Mhm.
tech. And I always thought we weren't going to do tech, but then the grandparents showed up with iPads. And thank you for that Christmas present you didn't ask us about. So we have iPads now, and my 12-year-old is really great because she's homeschooled, so she doesn't have, other teenagery influence really. And her fellow friends, they don't have social media, they don't do any of that, they don't have phones. Um, and the few times I've had to course correct with her, she's such a people pleaser. She course corrects and she goes, okay, I won't ever do that again. And so these days, she barely gets on tech. It's only to talk to her friend who is a missionary's kid in Asia. That's the only time she's ever on technology. And other than that, she's just reading, drawing, and playing and being a kid. But the 3-year-old boy, he loves watching all things, motorcycles, cars, anything that he can watch, he likes to watch. And so we've had to set really clear boundaries with the 3-year-old.
And it's interesting. He wants to watch on the phone. He
He
doesn't.
does. He would prefer to watch
He
on the smallest screen
the
possible.
smallest screen possible. I think it's because he can hold that.
Hmm.
It's more comfortable to him, and so the we've noticed that phone is the controlled substance in our house. Like,
Hmm.
Mhm.
there's very strict limitations about when he has access to that. Um,
We're always sitting next to him, monitoring. He doesn't have a lot of time that he can do that during the day. We have a cutoff time at 6:30 p.m., and he's not allowed on tech ever again
yeah,
for
and
the
we do
night.
not. We work tirelessly to make sure that we are not using technology as a pacifier
Hmm.
Mhm.
for either of them, and
Mhm.
and to make sure that if there's some sort of engagement on a phone or a device like that, that it's to a purpose. It's, hey, we're going to look at this right now. We're going to do this together. There are a few windows in any given day where he might have 10 minutes on a device like that, where he might be watching Paw Patrol or something,
Yeah.
brain numbing. But that's I think that's normal. I think everything needs to be in moderation. And uh, one of the worst things we could do is kind of go completely cold turkey in a house, where we don't learn to engage with it. We don't learn to control ourselves. We don't learn any discipline around it. I think for us, setting really strict guidelines around the usage when we have access to that, it has been important for our house, and so that we don't create for ourselves or for other people some sort of contraction expansion cycle. Which,
Mhm.
if there's a great book out there called "Healing the Shame That Binds You," if you want to go look that up, it's very cool. It's just about the expansion contraction cycle of shame, where if and people who've been through an addiction, if you've struggled with alcohol, tobacco, or porn or something like that, and you've struggled with expansion contraction, where you go completely, uh, it's like the dieter who goes on an extreme diet. Suddenly they just barely eat. Now they're bulimic, or I'm sorry, they're anorexic. They're not eating anything. and then they'll expand and suddenly they start eating everything, but then now they're throwing it up. Um, those that is an expansion contraction cycle, and it's really based on shame. We do the same thing around just about any addiction. I think one of the worst things we could do culturally is point fingers at each other and say, how, shame on you for your usage, because that puts you in that potential for expansion contraction in your own self.
Mhm.
And we certainly want to be careful about how we engage with the kids, because if we do that to the kids, you say, well, we're going virtually Amish, and we're going to have zero tech in our house, then they'll be looking longingly and feel cut off to some degree from those things. They'll also feel some shame about it if they were at a friend's house and they had access to it. You can move them into that kind of secrecy, rebellion behavior where they're like, well, mom and dad don't want me doing this at all. So, and you don't want to create that culture for the kids. So we're working very much towards let's use technology for good when we can. If we're using it for entertainment, let's keep it very controlled and structured so we understand. And then trying to monitor ourselves as parents, just, about our own use, and make sure we're not um, total addicts hiding behind the closed doors, and then
Right.
asking one thing of our kids, but not requiring the same of ourselves.
Yeah, leading by example for sure is super important. I
Yeah.
think, if the technology is off and away in the evening time, it should be as well for you guys, because all it takes is, your daughter to go, Mom, like, you don't want me doing this stuff, but here I am trying to get your attention and you're busy playing on your phone. So
Yeah.
you're getting mixed signals there. So I love that. Well, listen, Nathan, Delitha, I know we went a little long, but I want to give you guys an opportunity to let my viewers, listeners know if they want to look you up, learn a little bit more about you guys. Where's the best places for them to do that?
For me, I don't have a lot of social media. I'm on Instagram and then my Facebook is private. But if you want to connect, I'd say go to ariaappleton.com and then link out to all the Aria Appleton stuff. I, at this point, run everything social media wise for Aria. So if you wanted to connect with me, just do it through Aria and you can just say, send me a message if you want to through there because I'm the one who'll see everything.
Yeah, and I am a little more out there in social media because of my work in the film industry. I'm at Nathan D. Myers, Myers, just about everywhere. Facebook, Instagram, nathndmyers.com. Links out to all my stuff. There's a link tree floating around out there somewhere related to that. And I'd be happy to connect with you. I really do communicate a lot on Facebook and Instagram with people. So if you communicate with me through there, I would love I will reach back for you and contact you. And But yeah, ariaappleton.com and is the best way to link out and catch the movie at Prime Video, and leave us a review once you watch the movie. Prime allows you to go ahead and leave a review once the credit crawl scrolls through and it knows you've watched the movie. Then you can leave us a review. We would love to know what you think, and especially if you share it with your kids and your kids respond like most kids do. Most kids that are watching this at this point, their parents write us and contact us and go, "Wow, my kids have watched this 4 times. They're in, and most most families are having a really positive experience. It's creating some really cool conversations at home. We're getting a lot of thank yous from parents for having done it, because it's just helping in a lighthearted way inspire a healthy conversation with the family that's not super heavy, and it's healthy. It's a good conversation. So please leave us a review. You can leave us Google reviews too if you so choose. We would like that.
Awesome. Well, listen, Nathan, Delitha, thank you guys very much for being on. I appreciate you guys dealing with all the rescheduling and all that kind of stuff. I'm certainly glad we got a chance to do this and get this thing knocked out. But I'm looking forward to staying in touch with you and developing further friendship and watching where you guys take off from here.
Thank
Thanks.
you. We appreciate what you're doing too, and appreciate your podcast and just how you roll. We like it.
Yeah, thank you guys very much. Listen, guys, this has been another episode of Dad Up. I want to thank my good friends Nathan and Delitha Myers for being on the show. Please make sure you go check out what they're doing at ariaappleton.com. The links will be in the show notes, so you can check them out there, and make sure you guys give them a follow, send them a message, watch the movie, leave a review, all those sorts of things. They would appreciate it. And listen, as always, if you are not yet subscribed to my show, please make sure you do that so you don't miss any of the awesome guests that I have on each and every week. And as I always say, I look forward to seeing you all on the next episode of Dad Up. Wow, another amazing episode in the books. So much was shared, and I'm truly grateful my guest was able to pour into you to help you elevate your dad game and really dad up. Make sure you bang that subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode. And while you're here, please don't forget to leave me a rating and a review. I always appreciate the feedback. And one last thing, don't forget, your role as a dad is one of the most important roles you have. So if you need a little help or have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me on my website at daduptribe.com or at my Instagram page at daduppodcast. Until next time, everyone, Dad Up.